In this podcast episode, author Norman Ohler delves deeply into the intricate and often overlooked relationship between drug use and Nazi Germany, World War II military history, and wider cultural and historical contexts. Drawing on his extensive archival research and personal experiences, Ohler sheds light on 12 distinct themes ranging from Nazi-era methamphetamine use and Hitler's own drug regimen to the origins of psychedelics and human civilization. Ohler reveals that the German military's surprising speed and stamina during campaigns, particularly the 1940 invasion of France through the Ardennes, were heavily facilitated by the use of the stimulant methamphetamine, known commercially as Pervitin. Contrary to the common single-cause explanation attributing victory to genius military tactics alone, Ohler emphasizes that the drug use was a critical factor enabling soldiers and tank crews to stay awake and maintain relentless momentum for days without sleep. The story includes how Professor Ranke, an Army physiologist, developed dosage protocols to keep entire armies energized during Blitzkrieg campaigns. This mass prescription and distribution of millions of methamphetamine doses represented an unprecedented scale of performance enhancement in warfare. After initial skepticism, military leadership officially adopted stimulant use, leaving a legacy that stretched across the Wehrmacht's operations on multiple fronts. While many might imagine Hitler as a drug-free teetotaler, Ohler presents a complex picture that evolves over time. Initially, Hitler embodied the Nazi ideal of purity, teetotaler, vegetarian, caffeine-free, but his health and mental state deteriorated dramatically during the war, exacerbated by a cocktail of pharmaceuticals administered by his personal doctor, Theodor Morell. Morell was both an outsider and confidant, introducing Hitler to anything from vitamins and glucose injections to opioids like Eucodol, oxycodone, and cocaine late in the war. Ohler details how Hitler became progressively dependent on these substances, especially opioids, which Morell administered intravenously. These drugs shaped Hitler's cognitive decline and erratic decision-making, especially after pivotal moments such as the July 20th, 1944 assassination attempt. The complex doctor's war between Morell and other physicians like Kiesing, who tried to intervene, also reflects internal conflicts over Hitler's health care. The story of Morell's influence, eventual dismissal, and ignominious end highlights the profound but shadowy impact of drugs on the Führer's capacity to lead. Ohler discusses morphine's introduction as a medical breakthrough originating in the 19th century, enabling pain relief, especially in wartime. Key Nazi figures, most notably Hermann Goering, maintained long-term morphine addictions, profoundly influencing their behavior and leadership. The drug's numbing effects, an ability to dull pain and generate euphoric highs, masked both physical and psychological ailments, but also led to a loss of connection with reality. This opioid dependency inside the Nazi leadership contributed to misjudgments and poor military decisions, compounding the overall decline in command effectiveness toward the war's end. Goering's addiction stands as a stark example of the detrimental effects psychoactive substances had on vital figures in the Third Reich's power structure. In explaining some of Hitler's final months, Ohler introduces the surprising use of cocaine and the dangerous Speedball combination, intravenous mixtures of stimulants and depressants administered to the Führer following his injuries during the 1944 bomb plot. The cocaine heightened his paranoia and sense of omnipotence at a time when his regime was collapsing, while Morell maintained opioid treatments that induced a volatile and unstable state. These drug effects intertwined with Hitler's psychological turmoil, further deteriorating his physical health and mental clarity during the collapse of Nazi Germany. The portrait is that of a leader overwhelmed by addiction and dependency, trapped in a spiraling loss of control while the world fell apart around him. Ohler challenges the narrative of Blitzkrieg's success as purely tactical genius by reminding listeners of critical strategic errors, such as the halt order at Dunkirk and the ill-fated decision to split forces during the invasion of the Soviet Union rather than focusing on Moscow. He highlights the tension between the older Königlich Prussian Army Command and Hitler, who was ideologically driven and became increasingly irrational, partly explained by his drug use. This period marks a turning point where drugs enhanced the fighting ability of soldiers while impairing Hitler's leadership. The generals who pushed for more pragmatic approaches eventually conspired against him, although their efforts arrived too late to prevent catastrophic outcomes. Ohler reconstructs a multidimensional view where human bravery, drug-induced stamina, and flawed command intertwined. The podcast also explores the courageous resistance efforts inside Nazi Germany, led by Harro Schulze-Boysen and Libertas. As a couple deeply involved in an extensive spy and intelligence network, they risked their lives to oppose the regime from within its very heart, the Luftwaffe ministry in Berlin. They orchestrated covert activities and clandestine meetings disguised as parties, spreading anti-Nazi sentiment while passing intelligence to the Allies and Soviet Union. Despite their tireless efforts, their movement was ultimately betrayed and crushed by the Gestapo. Ohler portrays their story as a testament to moral courage, nuanced human relationships, and the tragedy of resistance under totalitarianism. The couple's personal struggles and sacrifices emphasize the complexity and peril of opposing a repressive system at close quarters. Ohler draws compelling contrast between the early alcoholic culture associated with the Nazi movement based in Bavaria and the vibrant experimental drug scene in Weimar Berlin during the 1920s. Berlin became a haven for morphine, cocaine, ether, and mescaline use, intertwined with artistic innovation and social liberation that horrified Nazi ideologues like Goebbels. Fast-forwarding to the 1990s and post-war Berlin, Ohler finds echoes of that same cultural ferment in the rise of electronic music and club scenes, where drugs like MDMA fueled epic, euphoric party experiences. He personalizes this through his own experiences as a writer, late-night dancer, and researcher, portraying Berlin as a timeless hub of diverse human expression and exploration. The narrative demonstrates how drugs map onto broader cultural shifts and social dynamics, from repression to creative explosion. Extending beyond 20th century history, Ohler embarks on a grander journey into the evolutionary past with his upcoming book, Stoned Sapiens. He hypothesizes that psychoactive substances like Iboga, an ancient plant with amphetamine-like properties, may have played a role in the development of human consciousness and culture. He contrasts humans and Neanderthals, noting that the former's engagement with mind-altering plants likely catalyzed creativity, spirituality, and social complexity. His exploration includes the synthesis of LSD by Swiss chemists during World War II and how it was appropriated for secret CIA programs such as MKUltra, following its origins in Nazi research on hallucinogens like mescaline. These narratives weave science, anthropology, and political intrigue to situate psychedelics within a continuum of human experimentation with altered states that shaped history and identity. Ohler raises chilling revelations about the post-war American government's interest in drugs as tools of espionage and mind control. The CIA inherited and amplified Nazi experiments with hallucinogens, engaging in covert programs aimed at developing truth drugs and manipulating behavior during the Cold War. The story includes how LSD was deliberately withheld from medical markets to maintain covert control, fueling conspiracy and mistrust throughout the 20th century. This chapter demonstrates a troubling continuity between wartime abuses and peacetime geopolitical strategies, exposing the ethical hazards and human costs of weaponizing consciousness. The link between Nazi drug research and modern intelligence programs underlines the complex consequences of psychoactive substances in history, far beyond recreational or cultural uses. Norman Ohler shares his own early experiences experimenting with LSD and other psychedelics, describing transformative moments that expanded his perception of life's fundamental beauty and complexity. Though at times scary or disorienting, such experiences offered insights into the brain's plasticity and the conditioned nature of human consciousness. He recognizes the psychological risks, but also the unique potential for healing and creativity inherent in these substances. Ohler connects these personal insights to literary influences such as Kerouac, Nietzsche, and Camus, demonstrating how altered states have informed artistic expression and philosophical inquiry through history. His reflections emphasize the importance of responsible contextualization and the deep resonance such experiences can have on individual and collective understanding. Bringing the conversation full circle, Ohler contemplates the broader meaning of human existence through the lens of consciousness and drug use. He suggests that psychoactive plants may have catalyzed breakthroughs in self-awareness and social cohesion that propelled Homo sapiens into global dominance. The pursuit of understanding the big story of the universe and our place within it emerges as a driving force behind human creativity and resilience. His vision embraces both the profound mystery and potential of the human mind, underscoring the role of openness to experience and intellectual bravery in facing life's challenges. From ancient cave paintings to modern neuroscience and literature, this theme invites us to explore how expanded consciousness and the substances that can elicit it shape the unfolding story of humanity.